Welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show. Well, hi, Jarah, and welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast.
Thank you. Good to be chatting with you.
Yes, so tell us a little about yourself and how did you get into your current role?
I am 33. I'm by trade, I'd say I'm a sports scientist. I have originally got into this sort of area by when I was younger. I used to be on the Australian mountain bike team and quite competitive and raced overseas and those sorts of things. And I was really enjoyed the actual training side of things, like the strength and conditioning and race preparation and nutrition and those types of anything that could get you a little, edge in performance and those things. I just enjoyed it. And after I finished with finished up, came back from overseas racing my bike and still did a little bit of national racing here. I was like, what's my career going to be? And from that, I decided to go and do a degree in sports science, and did my sports science degree and was doing a bit of sort of strength and conditioning, training some mountain bikers who were sort of friends and in my sort of group, I suppose. Finished the degree, then did a master's. And during that time, I suppose, worked my way through the ranks and ended up being a director of high performance for a sports team and managing their athletes and from a strength and conditioning point and race day point and those things. And that's how, I think it was about 7 years ago, and that's how I kind of got into supplements and trying to get that little extra edge or helping out an athlete with just a little bit of with supplements. And one of my athletes actually at the time, he said, why don't you make your own? Because there was so much crap out there. There was a lot of trouble with contamination and banned substances in Australia at that time, still is now actually. And they would, he really ended up convincing me to start blending and formulating my own just for my athletes. It was never for sale.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. I thought, okay, if I can research and find out what I think's the best at that time was the best 3 products, so the best hydration, recovery, and sort of a pre-training, pre-race product, I'd do it. And I ended up doing about 6 months of research, quite a bit of testing with the athletes, and it was working really well. All it was just black tubs, and I'd formulated the product. It was just for my athletes. And then I started to get phone calls from, and it was, mind you, it was all third-party tested, so no banned substances, obviously, because we're under WADA and ASADA. And funnily enough, that the rules for a sports scientist or a coach, if you get caught or you give a product to an athlete that gets banned or turns a positive test, you pretty much just straight away will get a life ban. Where the athlete may get 2 to 4 years, you'll get life for any Olympic or sport. So I was really concerned about that. And so ended up sourcing all the really best high quality ingredients from places like Japan and America and New Zealand, nothing from India or China, which a lot of it does sort of can be sourced from. And then I started to get phone calls from sports scientists and strength and conditioning coaches and other athletes saying, I heard so-and-so was using a product that you give them, one of your athletes. Is there any chance I can buy it off you? And I was like, at the time, I was like, nah, I don't think so. It was just black tubs, no kind of labels. The athletes had a printout on what was in it and how to use them. And then eventually I get a few more calls, and the same athlete told me I should start it, said just make a crappy website and put it online with poor labels. And I had these shocking labels and ended up doing it and put it on the website, and it slowly grew and into an almost like an accidental company, an accidental business. And then I got involved in still doing the training and working with the athletes side of things, but the supplement company just grew and grew. And I ended up meeting a few people from who owned a few different gyms and gym type franchises, and realised that people wanted really high quality products that athletes were using, even though they were doing things like CrossFit or F45, and they weren't competitive in like a world championship level, but they were competitive either with themselves or with their mates. And I gave them samples and they loved it. And then I've slowly grew more and more stockists and online sales, and that's kind of where I am today. It's become a business when I didn't think it was going to be a business. So
it's a side hustle that grew and grew into the business it is today. But it's a great story. It's fantastic that you had lots of referrals to start off on the process. So let's talk about the 3 products that you have now. The first one being hydration. And I guess give people a little bit of more of an insight, like what is a supplement and what are the benefits of a supplement? And then we'll go into the 3 products.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, I'm extremely avid in telling people that supplements are literally pretty much the last thing that you should be considering if you're an athlete. Be considering as an athlete, get all your ducks in a row. Get your training and your real food and all those things there, and your recovery, your sleep, those things. That's what's most important. Supplements are the extra 3 to 5% that you can get out of them on race day or by using them, by recovering with them or something over a period of time. So I don't go out and say, you look at so many different marketing things on other companies and they say, all natural, but they'll also say, which is, all natural. I can go on about forever what really is all natural, what isn't all natural with supplements on the market. But they'll say that, 200% gain in strength and muscle mass or some load of crap like that. And it's not the case. It is just small advantages that you can get from the research that is available with these supplements. So I'm really avid in saying that, and people sort of go, they're like, I thought you'd be saying they'd make a really, really huge difference. I said the best ingredients and the best products do make a good little difference, which really does help. But I'm avid in saying, get everything else in line first, the big things, the training properly and the sleep and the diet. So that's in the realm of those sort of in supplements and athletes and people going to the gym and training. I think that's probably the most important thing to consider.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you think there's a specific age that they should be or not be to take supplements?
I'm not sure if it's Fazance, the sports foods New Zealand, or if it's the Therapeutic Goods Australia. They put an age on the products, which is, I think it's 16 for protein or maybe 15 for protein and maybe 18 for other things. My opinion is, again, look, I go with what they say because that's the letter of the law. But again, get there, especially if they're younger athletes, really get the best part of training and the things that are really going to get you the most results, get them organised and ticked off before you look into supplements, and really consult with somebody, especially young athletes, really consult with somebody before you start looking into it. Because when they're very influenced by marketing and social media with supplements, it's very easy for them to go down the wrong road, and without knowing, turn positive test because they've got there's a stimulant that's banned, and suddenly they're 18 years of age or 16 years of age or something. They've taken a stimulant they didn't know was in the product, and they're 2 to 4 years ban on their sport and forever marred. So forever people will see them as taking a banned substance and essentially cheating, even if they didn't mean it.
Yeah. And Jarah, you mentioned they should consult with somebody regarding this. Who do you recommend is the best person, athlete, to seek?
Well, definitely the nutritionists and dietitians that have good experience in the area. There's some nutritionists, dietitians that actually don't know much about supplements, but ones that do or can find the sort of good evidence around different products. I think they're certainly the first point of call. I'd certainly say me, and like anyone can pick the phone up and give me a ring and chat, or send me an email and ask me some questions on what I think, and give me some feedback on their experiences and things like that. I'm really happy to help, but I'm very aware that I also own the company, and people can say, well, of course he's going to be biased because he sells the stuff, which I totally understand. But I also say that my own athletes that I train and everything like that, myself, they get my products off me, and I don't want anything but the very best for them. I could not handle making a poor product or something that wasn't the very, very best and saying to one of my athletes, here you go, take this is the best on the market, you can't do better than that. If it wasn't like that, I couldn't give it to them, and I wouldn't, because they are they are where I started. I'm really passionate about them being able to achieve everything that they can in their short sporting career. Yeah.
And so apart from the age and then the who they should go to, when do you recommend someone to look into getting a supplement if they're the right age? And
well, look, all athletes, I did a seminar a while ago, and in the room I said, well, everyone put your hand up if you've ever stuck to a diet, your athletic sporting diet or whatever it was, nutrition for more than 2 months, I think I said. Right, no one put their hand up.
No.
Right, so then there definitely, for that sort of thing, there definitely is, if you've got holes in it, in your nutrition, you can fill with different things like protein and different type supplements to boost them up.
Yep.
And then if you're looking for that small advantage of, say, you can get from what's a really well-known ingredient is beta-alanine. You can get small advantages in your power and endurance from that product. So it's looking into products like that if you want to get that extra 3-4% gain in performance and in training over time and then in racing. Then I think it's it is important, and it certainly has a part in training and competition for people.
Great. So thanks for that information. Now, let's go back to your actual 3 fantastic products that you have. So you mentioned the first one was around hydration. Tell us about what's in it, the benefits of it, when it should be taken.
So it's called HydroCharge, and the main what's on the market at the moment that was on the market before I decided to make HydroCharge, essentially sugar drinks, really, with a bit of salt. Which is, I'm not completely saying that's not that's totally bad. That'll have its place because, you need to replace electrolytes and have carbs and sugars and that sort of thing to replace and compete with. I build them all off different things. So there's, in the hydration products, okay, what do they need? They'll need carbohydrates, obviously getting the liquid in with the product, their electrolytes, but I tend to go a little low, a different ratio of types of electrolytes that I have in the product, because one huge feedback that I get from everyone from pretty much that take these products or types of products is diarrhea and stomach upset. And the last thing, so for a V8 supercar guy, you get a hydration product, like, yes, I'll use this, and they're out in the race and they're in their race suit. Last thing they want is diarrhea.
Of course.
And stomach upset. So even if they don't get diarrhea, they get stomach upset, and that's going to take a ton of energy and focus away from whatever you're doing. Same with, imagine being on a road ride, motocross rider, road cyclist, mountain bike, all those things. Any sport, you don't want any stomach upset. One, because of the energy it takes away from the sport you're doing. 2, because obviously diarrhea is going to be pretty uncomfortable, and they're already nervous as it is competing. So I tweaked that a lot to make sure that we had no stomach upset at all. I also put in, which most products don't put in, branch chain amino acids in there. And that's not going to make a world-changing difference, but it makes, again, that small little difference when they're not getting enough food on race day or whatever's happening, to help them keep going through that endurance competitive things. And I've had quite a few Ironmen complete, like the Hawaiian Ironman and stuff like that have got back to me and said, man, we've trained with this product and it's fantastic. It's the best hydration one that we've used, which is awesome. I also use another type of amino acid. It's very expensive, and unfortunately, or it's called Sustamine. And there's a few research projects out there that say that using the dosage of Sustamine does help hydration and endurance performance when taken before and during. And it's interesting. So if you look at the papers and the research on Sustamine, and this is throughout the industry, this type of thing happens, is that, let's say the dosage, the dosage that they found that worked the best was 1.5 grams or around that. What other companies or most companies will do is they'll go, oh, sweet, that's great. They'll buy it and they'll put, I think the highest dose of Sustamine I'd seen was 250 milligrams or maybe 300 milligrams, when the real dose should be 1.5 grams. Wow. And they pepper it in. And then they'd advertise like crazy, oh, we use this, and they quote everything and say how great it is, when really they're using a tenth or something of the actual dose that was used to create or study the product. And that's industry-wide. It's a great way to make money, because you can put the tiniest amount in, maybe 1% in, and you can still say that it's in there.
Yeah.
And the normal person on the street, or the triathlete that does the Gatorade Triathlon Series or something like that, that's competitive with their mates, but they don't have a nutrition degree or know really what's the real dosage of it. What should it be?
Yeah.
And that's how I sort of came together with that product originally. And the last thing I ever do is flavour things, because I want the dosage and everything to be perfect. I don't care about the flavour. You're an athlete. You get it down and suck it up.
Yeah.
That was my original sort of view. Hydration's a bit different because you're taking it on the bike and you want something that tastes nice. But I spoke to a dietitian. She was telling me about a study that when it was on triathletes, and after I think 45 minutes of fairly intense racing or training, their taste buds were really sensitive to sweet, and they hated sweet things. And all the hydration drinks, and from feedback I got, they say it's great generally, but when they're competing, it's just too sweet. And so I put it down to maybe linking those studies to their feedback. So I made my hydration drink quite light tasting. So when people taste it originally, they're kind of like, oh, that's a bit watery, it's not great. But when they're doing hard sessions, they really like it, because it's not too sweet. And so anyway, little things like that, all those things I try and tick those little boxes to make athletes and people who are using the product as happy as possible. And that's how that hydration product came about. So how to use it, some people like to use it the day before competition. So I suppose they call it hyperhydration, and 1 to 2 scoops usually the day before competition. And then guys like my motocross racers and my mountain bikers will have it in a bottle before before competition, and then they'll have it throughout their training depending on their weight. And we'll work out how much calories they're burning and what food they're eating and things, and how much they may or may not need of the product. But as a general rule, 1 to 2 scoops almost does everybody through their competition, unless it's something like an ultra endurance event.
Yeah, I was about to ask. So for those, I guess, in motorsport may have like 3 short races on one day, or they may have an endurance event, that's a few hours. Is it easy to recognise how many scoops you should have and how often? Is it something that you're just sipping throughout the day?
Yep. So some guys like to be really technical about it. Other guys really hate to be technical about it. They like to just scoop it in and just use it. The ones that are a lot will get on the scales and see how much they've lost and do P tests and those sorts of things during those like the longer races or even the shorter races. And usually if they're doing that, they've got someone doing it for them. As in, they'll have a trainer or a dietitian or someone like that will be covering that. So then it's really easy for them, because they just get told. Yeah. And once they know what they're eating and what they're losing when they're in the car, depending on obviously how hot it, if they're, a lot of the time the cool suits will fail, and then that'll make a huge difference. One guy last year, I can't remember who it was. he was almost, Reynolds, that was it, him. I was watching that, and I had in my brain exactly what I would be recommended doing in that time. And I spoke to a lot of people, and like it's sort of like a tool in your tool belt. And I'm like, I think I know what this guy really needs to not have that problem.
Yeah. Were you screaming at the TV like I was?
Sorry?
Were you screaming at the TV like?
Oh yeah, I certainly was. And you know, like I don't know who he is. I've never met him or anything like that. But I was like, this could be fixed. Like this is this shouldn't really, most likely shouldn't happen. And I think they chucked him. I can't remember. Like there's a lot of things you can do. Like as I say, tools in your tool belt to stop that happening if it does happen, to sort of fix it a bit.
Yeah.
So very interesting, actually. Very interesting to watch that. But it just goes to show how cooked you can get in a car if things like your cool suit stops.
Yep.
And that does make a big difference. You need a strategy nutritionally and hydration. You need a strategy for that.
Yeah, and of course, not all our listeners are racing V8s, and so they're
of course,
cars like Hyundai XLs and support categories as race cars, and they don't necessarily have a cool suit. So, wanting some strategies around that hydration, I guess it's the same sort of principle if you don't have a cool suit.
Yep. So if it's say if it's in Darwin or something like that, or somewhere it's really hot, a lot of things that they've been doing, like at the AIS, they've been doing things like this for a long time, is actually using their hydration drink, but using it in a slushy, frozen, so drinking it frozen, so getting that cool core body temperature as cold as possible before they get in the car, but also having the hydration as cold as possible within the car, in your drink, and using something like Hydrocharge, or exactly like Hydrocharge, as of course I'd recommend. Having that in your bottle and
sipping away,
knowing how much you're drinking and your duration and those sorts of things, and simple testing, like if they go and do a car test or something like that, or test during racing, they can get a really good gauge on what's working and what's not working. I also like to have, if things are sort of, as I said, tools in your tool belt type thing, if shit hits the fan, having things like caffeine ready to go. Don't use it before the race. Have it as like, if you're getting a period in, you're making a lot of mistakes, you're feeling fatigued, have caffeine. There's these things called Revies. They're not tableted, so like melts in your mouth strip. And that's another company that I don't have anything to do with, but almost all my athletes have them on hand just in case something like they're fatigued or they don't know why they can't get up. And it has caffeine like that has a fantastic, when you're down, has a fantastic psychological benefit, because you start feeling stimulated and you think it's working. And even though it might not make a performance advantage, if you think it and feel it that it's working, there's a psychological advantage there, and you're going to be happier and compete better. So yeah, that's for those guys. I think all those little strategies are really good ideas.
Okay, fantastic. I'll grab that link of that product review afterwards, and I'll have it in today's show notes.
Yeah, fantastic.
And also, I'm not sure if you're aware, Jarah, but on a previous episode on the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, I think around about episode 3 or 4, we spoke to Justin Holland from the University in Queensland, who did a whole study on hydration in motorsports.
Oh, cool.
I'll put a link to that as well. And he was going through like sweat testing. Again, it's more around the V8s. Also, it just gives some further insight into what you're actually explaining today. So thanks for that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now that we've hydrated, we've raced, we've won or we haven't won, we've competed well, what's our stage 2 in our supplement?
So the next thing, and this is the first product I made, was the recovery product. So it's a really what's called a high Dalton level. I won't get into what a high Dalton level is, but basically it's a high Dalton level hydrolyzed whey protein. It's the highest quality, highest like leucine, which is a really important muscle recovery amino acid product or protein. And I have a few little other bits and pieces in there that really help aid with recovery. And another part of this, using this hydrolyzed whey protein that I use, is going back to digestion and stomach issues. so many guys use a whey protein or something else, and they're getting, as bodybuilders call them, protein farts and upset stomach and stomach pains and things like that. And that, I think that hinders performance.
Yeah.
Well, I know that hinders performance. Or if something is not agreeing with you, it's going to be taking energy out of you to deal with it in the system. And so that's why I went with the hydrolyzed whey protein. There's also some studies that will say that if you look, I can't remember, what was it? It was 6, 8, 12, and 14 hours, or maybe 14 up to 24 hours. And they were basically testing muscle recovery, comparing a hydrolyzed whey protein to different other types of protein. And for the athlete that is training regularly, the hydrolyzed whey protein is better because it gets into the system fast, and they seemed to have a fast recovery at your 6, 8, and 12 hours. And I think the next one down. But if you're only training, say, I don't know, once every 3 or 4 days, then the normal protein is fine. But again, I try and get every single little advantage that my athlete can get, obviously legally, out of the products, and that's why we use hydrolyzed, this high Dalton hydrolyzed whey protein, which tastes horrendous. I've covered the taste up with a bit with flavoring, but as a raw material, it is horrendous. It's terrible tasting. So that the way the athletes or any sort of athlete would use that, basically straight after training, they can chuck it and make a smoothie, chuck a banana in it. A lot of my athletes like to do and mix it up, and that box is ticked, and off they go to their other sort of recovery, you rest and those sorts of things.
Foam rolling, swimming, flexibility.
Exactly. And it's a lot of guys, like, I know it's only anecdotally, but a lot of people say that they've used my product and then gone back to something else or changed, and then decided that they're pretty sure that their recovery was better over a period of time with my product, and that's why they've come back. And I don't mind that they've gone somewhere else for a different product. But the fact that they come back and they use it and they're not changing, when I hear that feedback, makes my day. It's fantastic to hear.
And I guess that's a really great point that you just brought up. How often or how long should someone actually trial a product before they decide whether it's right or wrong for them? Because certainly one tub isn't going to
certainly do it pre-season. So never ever. I always tell people, never ever bring anything new on race day or competition day ever. Don't decide to take some supplement that day because you just don't know how your body's going to react to it. Always trial during training, and if it's a pre-season, I would suggest using at least a month's worth of product during a training block to see how it goes. I'd say about a month would probably, depending on how much training they are actually doing, how often if they're using the product 5 to 6 days a week, a month would probably do it before they really get a good gauge on how it's affecting them.
Awesome. Sorry, I was writing some notes down there.
Oh, yeah, it's all right.
Show notes for today. And last but not least, you have the pre-training, or your wording for it. Yeah.
So it's a lot of people call it like a pre-workout, which is it's what it is. But I don't like the word pre-workout because it's so synonymous with crazy stimulants and banned substances, and essentially bodybuilding, which is not not particularly what my product line is about. And so I just call it a pre-training product, but to make it easy, we can just call it a pre-workout. And that was mainly made so athletes can have it before training without stimulants, because I don't like using stimulants before training or racing unless they need it. Unless they're flat, then again, use the stimulant, the caffeine or something as a tool in the toolbox, use it then. But using it just all the time, you don't notice it. It just becomes the norm. So that is basically a muscle buffering fatigue product, which is quite good research, especially for beta-alanine and that sort of thing. And a lot of athletes really, really love it. They're pumped with it, especially because it doesn't have any crazy stimulants in it. Again, no banned substances, and no real fillers or anything like that. Yeah.
And with all your products, are the ingredients clearly displayed, or is it available on your website? So if
Yes.
people wanted to read
of course.
more into knowing what product was right for you, and obviously just double check what's inside.
100%.
Not only from a drug perspective, but also, I guess, from an allergy perspective as well.
Yes.
And those that, keto, paleo, or dairy, or all of that. So is it on the website?
So that's all on there. And I will say that if you look at all the supplements in Australia, everyone puts it on that. Everyone will put that little may contain traces of this, and this. Everyone chucks it on there because it's essentially just a safeguard for getting sued, I suppose. Even I've seen it on products that would have nothing to do with any of those allergies, but it's there because I think people are worried about getting sued. So just as, I put something like that obviously on my products as well. People reading nutritional panels and especially ingredients lists is a big one. For example, with proteins, a lot of companies, and look, people can make up their mind if they think it's dodgy or not doing this. But what will happen is they go, okay, I want to make a protein product or protein company, and they find a type of protein that markets really well, that might be a very good one, that's expensive, and they'll market all the way across on their product line and on their labels and everything, saying this is what's in the product. But if you look at it, and it might say something like whey protein blend in the ingredients list, which means they might have milk protein or milk solids, whey protein isolate, caseinate, and then hydrolyzed at the end. And all they have to do, if they're using, is pepper that in at 2 or 3%, and then they can advertise like they want that's what it is, when really the consumer is not getting that. You're getting milk solids. And that's how they stack the protein or fill the protein to make a much larger markup. And I can go through a million examples of how they do these types of things with every different type of product, whether it be hydration or pre-workout. Just look at the ingredients list and try to, especially if it says whey protein blend, I don't like that. The fact that they say, it's a multi-stage release type thing, I don't buy into that at all. It makes no difference at all. If you're concerned about a protein that you want to digest slowly, just go with a real food.
Yeah, for sure.
Spend your money on real food and training, not the supplement.
And so, Jarah, what is your website address?
It is swifthighperformance.com.au. And you can find, there's blogs and things I've written about the supplement industry and how to sort of read a supplement label and those sorts of things, which will hopefully help some of your listeners. And they can always call me or email me anytime.
Yeah, and I'll have all of Jarah's contact details in today's show notes. And you guys are also on Facebook and Instagram?
Yes, yep, certainly are.
Fantastic. So I'll also include that today. Just before I leave, I'd just love to hear if someone was racing this weekend, what was your recommendation as far as, so today's Thursday, so today they'd start taking what product and when, so over a race weekend?
Okay, so if they're, depending on the sport and the athlete, the supercharged product, which is the pre-training product, does some of the ingredients in that do work better when you load on them. So if you've had them 13 to, I think it's between, the research is between about 13 and 20 days, so one serve every single day leading up to competition. If they're still training during the week and recovering from training sessions, like say if they're a footy player or something like that, obviously making sure their protein's high and getting that recovery protein, high leucine, especially recovery protein like my recharge product, in after training, and sometimes even on days off that they don't have training. So like, as an in-between meal product. And then the hydration with some guys will like to use HydroCharge a few days before. So one scoop, 1 day before or 2 days before, and leading up to the race or competition or whatever they're trying to do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that, Jarah. I just put you on the spot.
No, always. No worries at all.
I really appreciate the insight that you gave, not only into the supplements, but, the benefits around why to use them, how to use them. So really appreciate your time today. As I said, all of Jarah's contact details will be in today's show notes. So thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. I do have one last thing to say to everyone who's listening, and please, God, don't buy weight loss supplements. They are the biggest load of crap out there. And like athletes are not so concerned, but you'll have friends that just stay away. They're not going to help, and there's no evidence behind almost any, like thermogenic proteins. Stay away from all those. You're just getting ripped off and putting crap in your body. So that's a big thing. Tell your friends, tell your family, don't buy that crap, because there's no research behind it. Sorry, I have to say that.
No, that's fine, Jarah. We do have a product called Motivate Training for Me, which is for the general public. So
cool.
That will also go on there. So that's fantastic feedback for that. And also Motivate Training will be stocking the 2 supplements. So of course you can also go to our website at motivatetraining.com.au and view them there. So again, Jarah, thanks very much.
No worries at all.
Well, no doubt you'll have some new things testing in the background. So
always.
Yeah, when you get some new products, we'll love to have you on again.
Yep, sure thing. Actually, that being said, I probably won't have too many new products out, because the industry doesn't change on what really works too much. And you'll find companies bring out new products all the time. It's all just marketing. They're just doing it to upsell people. So that's probably, if I bring something new out, it means there's new research that's really good.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, that being said.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So, as research increases and more knowledge around about the benefits of supplementation comes in, and obviously that there'll be like new products that you can add into those 3 core that you do have.
Most likely that's what would happen, yes.
Awesome. Thanks very much, and we'll chat to you soon.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out, and you'll go into monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate Until next time, take care.